Good morning everybody. Today we are going to start with a new chapter of 10th standard political science, that is power sharing. Now to start with this chapter I would like to give an example. If in my class I make one child as monitor for the whole year and never give chance to any other child to become monitor, what will the other children feel? Of course, they will feel alienated, they will not be happy. But if I give the chance to every child to become class monitor at least once a week, that means I am sharing the monitorship with many children. So everybody will get the chance to represent their class and they will be happy. Same is the case with government and the countries. If power is shared, people are happy, and if power remains only with few people, problems occur in the country. Let us prove this with two examples, one of Belgium and one of Sri Lanka. Let us first take a small country in Europe called Belgium. Belgium is very small in size, even smaller than Haryana of India. But the composition of people, that means the type of living in Belgium was diverse. There were two language speaking, especially two language speaking people living in Belgium. One was Dutch speaking people and one was French speaking people. And the interesting thing to be noted is 59% of people in Belgium were Dutch speaking people and 40% people were French speaking people, and 1% constituted people of various other languages. Now, because though 40% is minority and the French speaking people are in minority in Belgium, but they were richer than the Dutch people. So all the economic benefits of the country first reach to this richer section of society, that is 40% French, which was not liked by the majority Dutch people. So there was always a conflict between Dutch speaking and French speaking people. The case was opposite in capital of Belgium, that is Brussels. Brussels was also having two language speaking people, Dutch and French, but 80% of them were French speaking and 20% were Dutch speaking. That means in Belgium French were in minority, but in Brussels French were in majority. In Belgium Dutch were in majority, but in Brussels Dutch were in minority. So this created conflict in Brussels also. So now let us take another country, that is Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka became independent in the year 1948, and when Sri Lanka became independent, there were two language speaking people in Sri Lanka. One was Sinhala speaking people and one was Tamil speaking people. The Sinhala is the basic language of Sri Lanka, and these Tamil speakers were of two origins. One were original Sri Lankan Tamils and one was those Tamils who migrated from India. Now an act was passed in 1956 by the Sri Lankan government where Sinhala was considered as the national language. When any language is considered as a national language, the other languages are suppressed under that main language. Similarly, there were different religious people also living in Sri Lanka. There were Buddhist people also, Hindus also and Muslims also. But this act of 1956 recognized Buddhism as the state religion. So this undermined the Hindus and the Muslims. Now this type of policy which was passed by Sri Lanka is called as majoritarianism. Majoritarianism is a belief that the majority community can rule in whichever way they want, and this is what happened in Sri Lanka, where the Tamils were neglected, their language was neglected, their religion was neglected, and the majority language Sinhala and the majority religion Buddhism was given state recognition. Now, because of this, the Tamil speakers, they felt alienated. Many times they formed different political organizations and they demanded equal rights from the Sri Lankan government. Out of the demands, there are 3 demands are worth mentioning. One is the Tamils wanted Tamil as official language in Sri Lanka. They wanted regional autonomy. That means they wanted a separate state for themselves within Sri Lanka, and state is called as Elam. So they wanted a Tamil Elam in Sri Lanka. Then also they wanted equality of opportunity in jobs and educational institutions. Through the act of majoritarianism, more preference in jobs and educational institutions were given to Sinhalas and Buddhists. So the Tamils had very less chance to get jobs and admission in the educational institutions. That is why they demanded equality of opportunity in that one. But the Sri Lankan government denied all the demands of the Sri Lankans, and this was one of the reasons why a civil strife occurred between the Sri Lankans and the Tamils, and ultimately lot of violence occurred, and this civil strife in Sri Lanka is an important event in the Sri Lankan history because the Tamils wanted a separate state which was denied by the Sri Lankans. Thousands of people were killed in this civil strife. Many of them left Sri Lanka and went as refugees to different countries, and it changed the economic situation of Sri Lanka. So we have seen that there was language differences in Belgium also and in Sri Lanka also. But the Sri Lankan government was not ready to share the power with the minority community. So civil strife occurred in Sri Lanka, which led to the division of the country and many political and social problems. But let us see, though there were regional language differences in Belgium, what did the Belgian government do? And we should appreciate that the Belgian government took such steps which avoided civil strife as it occurred in Sri Lanka. So some of the steps which was taken by the Belgian government so that the civil strife can be avoided and there can be harmony between different language speaking people is: 1. The constitution prescribes Dutch and French speaking ministers shall be equal in the central government. As we have seen in Belgium, which is where the central government was formed, previously there were 59% Dutch speaking and 40% French speaking people. But when the government was formed, it was decided that the number of ministers shall be equal from both sides, Dutch speaking and French speaking. That means power was shared between both French speaking people and Dutch speaking people. The second good thing which was done by Belgium was many powers of the central government were given to the state government. That means power was shared with the state government. Here the state government means the 2 regions where the Dutch people and the French people were in majority. So these 2 regions were Wallonia region, and the 2 regions were Flemish region and the Wallonia region. So powers of the central government were given to state government, that means power was shared, and the state government was not under the central government. That means state government was allowed to function independently and they were given some powers. They can decide the policies of their own area. Then the third good thing which was done by Belgium was when there was majority of Dutch people in center, but they were ready to share power with the French people who were in minority. Then the Brussels also has taken the similar step. A government, separate government was formed in Brussels, where both the communities should have equal representation. When the Dutch compromised with French here, then here the French who were in majority, they compromised with the Dutch also, and again both should have equal representation in Brussels. So means power was shared between Dutch and French people, and there was a separate government in Brussels where they can frame their own policies. Then the fourth good thing about Belgium was, apart from the central government and state government, there was a community government also formed. All the French speaking people of the country can have a community government of their own. All the Dutch speaking people of the country can have their community government, and this community government can decide about the culture, education and language related matters of their language. So this third type of community, that is community government, was also formed in Belgium. So by sharing power with all these people, Belgium is set up as a role model for other countries, because it could avoid civil strife by accommodating all type of people in it. And because of this, when the European nations wanted to form a union and they were looking for a place to have a headquarter, they decided to have Brussels as the headquarter of the European Union. We have seen that in Belgium power was shared, so there was no conflict among the people. In Sri Lanka power was not shared, so there was civil strife. Now let us again come to the question, why power sharing is desirable. So basically two reasons can be quoted for why power sharing is desirable. One is prudential reason and one is moral reason. What is prudential reason? That means when power is shared between different social groups, it avoids social conflicts. If social conflicts occurs, it leads to violence. Violence will lead to political instability. So to avoid political instability, power sharing is required. So what is the prudential reason? It avoids social conflict. What is the moral reason for power sharing? Power sharing is the very spirit of democracy. The base of democracy lies in power sharing itself. Power should be shared between those who are ruling and who is ruled. So then only we call that country as democracy. So democracy's underlying feature itself is power sharing. So that we can call it as moral reason of power sharing. So two reasons for power sharing are prudential reason and moral reason. In modern democracies, the power sharing arrangements can take different forms. So here 4 forms are mentioned in which power is shared. Let us take the first one, that is the power is shared between different organs of the government. You know there are 3 organs of government: legislature, executive and judiciary. Unlike in monarchy where power is lying under one person only, that is monarch, in democracy power is shared between legislature, executive and judiciary. All 3 of them are placed in the same level. That means neither legislature, executive or judiciary have more power than the other. So because all of these are placed in the same line, this type of power sharing is called as horizontal power sharing. For example, if judges are appointed in judiciary, but these judges are appointed by the executive, but that does not mean that executives are superior to judiciary. So judiciary has the right to control the executive. Similarly, laws are made by the legislature. That does not mean that legislature becomes more powerful. The judiciary has the power to curb any law which is made by the legislature. That means judiciary can control executive and legislature also. Similarly, executive can appoint judiciary. That means they are also having power. So all of them are having power, equal powers, where each one can check each other, which maintains the balance of the power. So organs of the government, when power is divided between different organs of the government, it keeps a balance in the power. So that is why this system of power sharing is also called as checks and balances. Each one of them keep check on another one, and so there is a balance maintained. In India, we are following this system: legislature, executive and judiciary, and 3 organs of government, and we are following this system in India. The second form of power sharing is power is shared between different levels of government, central government and state government. In India, we have different subjects on which laws are made by central government and state government. There are some subjects on which central government only has the right to make laws. In some subjects, only the state government has the power to make laws. That means the center has given power to the state also. The state can also have their policies framed in their own state. So it is not that the central authority is constituting all the power, because power is shared with the state governments also. So this type of power sharing is called as vertical power sharing. In this case, always center have a little upper hand than the states. So that is why this type of power sharing is called as vertical power sharing. In some cases, below the state government, local government is also there, as in India, where power of center and state are shared with the local governments also. Now the third type of power sharing is power is shared between different social groups. In India, we have different social groups. There may be a group formed by the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes. Women have their own groups. So power is shared between these groups also. Like reserved constituencies are given for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe people. This means that we want them also to represent the country. So we are sharing power with these groups by giving them representation in the country and having separate electorate. Then comes the fourth, that is between political parties, pressure groups or movements. In India, when elections are held between different political parties. So it is up to people whom they want to choose. That means power is shared between different political parties. Every political party can come to power. And if coalition government is formed, more than one party rules over the country. In that case also, the ruling power is shared between all the coalition governments. So that means power is shared between different political parties. There may be many groups in our country, like traders have their own group, businessmen have their own group, merchants may have their own group, teachers may have their own group. So these groups, if they want to represent something, they can do it through their organization, and their matters are also listened by the government. So that means they also have a power in the running of the government. So these pressure groups and movements, we have heard about women's movement who want equal right for women. So these type of movements can also be represented in the government. So power is shared between political parties, pressure groups and movements also. So these are the 4 forms of power sharing. So this much is there in this chapter. So you can go through the module video which I have just now given you, and question answers of this chapter I have already given you. The textbooks are with you. You should go through the chapter, and there are many terms in this chapter like majoritarianism, ethnic and many other terms which you have to learn. Please learn the question answers and go through the exercises of this chapter also. Thank you.